In today's short video, I'm going to take you through the structure of the program, the interventions and training that will take place, and how we support you getting from not being able to coach people to a fully qualified coach. So once you have joined the program and completed your induction, and I'll go through that in a separate video, you will then undertake a series of 8 masterclasses. Now you'll see that 3 of those indicated here by these purple triangles are full days. They're 9:30 until 5 o'clock online, and that is the key core content that you will cover on the program. In addition to that, we have a sequence of block training indicated by these green triangles, and they will last from 2:30 till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, followed by progress reviews, which happens periodically throughout the program, and that's your opportunity to meet with your skills coach, discuss your progress, and identify with your employer any areas that you have perhaps fallen behind or need to improve your skills on to address the knowledge, skills, and behavior that you need to demonstrate while on program. There are one-to-one tutorials that are optional throughout the program. So after each masterclass, if you feel you need more support, you can have a one-to-one tutorial with one of our qualified coaches to be able to give you some more guidance and support on any elements that we cover within those masterclasses. Once you've completed all those elements, you'll move into your endpoint assessment, and I'll cover that in a separate video, which will take you through to a qualified coach. Once you've started the program, we first look at Masterclass 1 at Coaching Fundamentals, and this is what we do when we start off as a coach, which includes contracting with our coachees. That's creating an agreement with them and what coaching is, and more importantly, what it isn't. So it's not counseling, it's not mentoring. How does coaching differentiate itself between those two? Once we've got the fundamental understandings around coaching, we start to look at Coaching Toolkit, and that's where we develop some of our models. And you may have heard of John Ritmore's GROW model, which is where we focus on goal, the reality of the situation, the options, and the way forward with our coachees. So we look at a different model and how actually we can use those different steps and sequences to take someone through having a problem to coming up with a solution. You'll then have an observed practice, which is where you'll be grouped in triads, that's threes, and you will do live coaching and you'll practice some of the skills that you've learned as part of this coaching toolkit. Moving on from that, you'll look at organizational culture. So you'll look at things like social cognitive learning. You'll look at Charles Handy's 4 kind of culture and what type of culture exists within your organization, and is it aligned to the culture that you're trying to create. We move on to belief systems, and we start to look at schools of psychology. So we look at famous psychologists like Carl Rogers. We look at humanistic psychology models. From Gestalt, we look at some traditional psychologists like Freud and how they shape and influence the way that we make decisions and grow and learn. Before we move on to coaching presence, which is actually how do we listen to our coachees and how do we actively listen and attentively listen and make sure that actually we're identifying the problem for our coachees and not perhaps hijacking or advising, which would be in breach of our role as a coach. We move on to narrative coaching and look at things like the hero's journey and the stories that we tell ourselves and perhaps the limiting beliefs that we place on ourselves, looking at things like the iceberg model and how our beliefs sit underneath the surface and influence our day-to-day decision making, and how we can break those beliefs with our coachees to enable them to have breakthroughs. At the impactful coaching stage, we look at something called ROI, which is return on investment, and how can we deliver a return on investment for our organization and coachees, before we move on to our final observed practice, which is where we will look at all the different skills that we've learned and we'll put them into practice on another live coaching session where you'll be given feedback from one of our coaches. For ethics and professional practice, we look at ethical models and decision making. So when we're presented with an ethical dilemma, what's the model and framework that we use to make appropriate ethical decision making? And then we'll move into our final gateway review. If we need a tutorial, we'll have one of those, and then into our endpoint assessment. And that summarizes 12 months of learning and 1 month of endpoint assessment to go from a novice or non-qualified coach through to a qualified coach and practitioner.